It is a great joy to be a part of this incredible event today. The U.S. Consulate General has been involved in the European Rover Challenge for many years, and we appreciate being a partner of such a truly unique event. This year, the American presence is expanded with the exhibition From the Moon to Mars, which just opened. And I encourage everybody to take the opportunity to tour the display later today outside this room. I am particularly pleased to be here because my previous career, before becoming a diplomat, was connected to the space sector. I'm an astrophysicist, and many years ago, I worked at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center on X-ray detector development. And I launched scientific sounding rockets with partners from all over the world, including Japan and many countries in Europe. I know personally how impactful science collaboration can be, both for scientific discovery and for global cooperation. As a result, I am incredibly privileged today to introduce to you the Associate Administrator of NASA, Mr. Robert Cabana. Prior to this position, Mr. Cabana was director of NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida, and was a NASA astronaut. Born in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Mr. Cabana graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy with a degree in mathematics and served in the United States Marine Corps. In 1981, he graduated with distinction from the U.S. Naval Test Pilot School. During his career, Mr. Cabana logged over 7,000 hours in 50 different kinds of aircraft. Mr. Cabana was selected as an astronaut candidate in 1985 and is a veteran of 4 space flights, during 2 of which he was mission commander. Mr. Cabana's many achievements have been recognized with induction into the Astronaut Hall of Fame and numerous awards and distinctions. And now, let's welcome astronaut and NASA Associate Administrator, Mr. Robert Cabana.
Well, thank you so much for that warm introduction. It is such a pleasure for me to be here to speak to all of you at the European Rover Challenge. I wish so much that I was there in person instead of talking to a computer screen. But I think I got a pretty good presentation for you guys today. And just remember, rovers are the precursors to sending humans out when we go explore. And we're going to talk more about that. I think you heard a little bit about my career, but man, I have been blessed. I have gotten to do so many amazing things. But for all you students out there, it all comes down to hard work and doing your very best at whatever you do. And remember, if you don't get something on the first try, don't give up. I didn't get into pilot training, test pilot school, or the astronaut program on the first try. But they were things that I was passionate about, and I kept on working toward it. It also helps if you really like what you're doing. And I know all you folks working on teams for the robotics challenge, you love what you do, and that really helps. I love math and engineering. I love flying. I was passionate about it. And when you're really passionate about something and you like it, then studying's not hard and you do well at it because you enjoy it, and work's not work. And I've hardly worked a day in my life because I've had this amazing career in the United States Marine Corps. And since 1985, for the last 36 years now, working at NASA. And NASA is just an awesome place to be. So let's talk a little bit about where we're going and what we're doing. So I want to tell you about the Artemis program. Now, Artemis is the twin sister of Apollo, and this is the program that is taking NASA back to the moon. But we're doing this different than we did during Apollo. We're not going for a 2 or 3 day camping trip. We're going to go in a sustainable way. We're also going with our international partners and in partnership with commercial companies. And that's the difference this time. And it is absolutely amazing. So let's talk a little bit more about the parts of Artemis. So Orion is the capsule. This is built by Lockheed Martin, and this is the Orion capsule for the Artemis 1 test flight. It's in the launch abort system facility right now, having the abort motor put on it, and then it's going to be shipped over to the vehicle assembly building to be stacked on top of the Space Launch System rocket. And it's going to fly its first test flight, hopefully by the end of this year, but early next year, to the moon without a crew. And we'll talk more about that. And then this is the vehicle that's going to allow us to go into deep space to explore, not only to the moon, but one day going on to Mars. So the Space Launch System, this is the most powerful rocket ever built. And if you look at the solid rocket motors on there, these are essentially the same solid rocket motors that we use for the shuttle program, except one thing I want to point out is if you look at those casings that are on there, where those black lines are, these are 5-segment solid rocket motors as opposed to 4 that were used for the shuttle. And the engines on this are the same engines we used during the shuttle program, but instead of 3, there are 4 of the RS-25 engines. These are the most fuel-efficient liquid rocket engines in existence. The tank holds hydrogen and oxygen. That hydrogen is the fuel, oxygen is the oxidizer, and then the interim cryo propulsion upper stage. In the picture on the left, in kind of dark right there on the crane, that's the upper stage that's being stacked on top of the rocket. You can see the rocket on the mobile launcher in the vehicle assembly building, and then the command and service module that you saw in the previous picture will get stacked on top of that. Going to be absolutely amazing. So if you look at, again, another shot here, you notice that that silver module on top, that's actually a mass simulator for the Orion capsule and the launch abort system. And right now, the Space Launch System is going through modal testing in the vehicle assembly building, and that's a mass simulator until we get the actual capsule on top. They're doing a test of all the swing arms and umbilicals. You can see the platforms all around the rocket, but eventually those platforms will be rolled back, and in November of this year, it will roll out to Launch Pad 39B, and you can see the mobile launcher when it was out on the pad for testing, only this time it's going to roll out with the rocket on it, and we're going to do a full wet dress rehearsal. We'll learn from that wet dress rehearsal, and hopefully a month later, we will be launching Orion and SLS on a test flight to the moon without a crew in preparation for a crewed flight in 2023 to the moon, and Artemis 3, hopefully in 2024, 2025 timeframe, where we actually land on the moon again with the first woman in the Artemis program and the first person of color. Artemis is going to take a diverse crew back to the moon when we go. All right, next slide. So when we get to the moon, we got to be able to get down onto the surface of the moon, and we need a human landing system. And so we are in the process right now. You can see Apollo on the left side of the screen, and a representation of what the human lander with the will look like when we go land on the Artemis program. But we're in the process of working with our commercial partners to develop this lander now to have it ready when we go to the moon. Gateway. So I said when we go to the moon, we're going with our international partners. Now, we've already let contracts for the power propulsion element. And what you see on the left side of the screen there is the solar electric propulsion test at the Glenn Research Center up in Ohio. This is the propulsion element for the PPE, and the HALO, the Habitation and Logistics Outpost. But also on the Gateway, I said we're doing this with our international partners, it's also in partnership with Canada, Japan, and the European Space Agency. And the Gateway will be in this near rectilinear orbit, this extreme orbit around the moon that allows access anywhere on the lunar surface. So we're well on our way, and the HALO and PPE are scheduled to launch in 2024. Now, the Artemis Accords, these are a set of principles that so far we've had all the countries that you see down below, all the space agents below, have signed up to the Artemis Accords. And these commit to common principles for working on the lunar surface in a peaceful, successful cooperation. And we're hopeful that the Polish Space Agency will also be signing these accords as we move forward. I also want to mention the International Space Exploration Coordination Group, the ISEG, and also the Global Exploration Roadmap. Now, together, 23 space agencies are participating and have signed up to this. And this is a non-binding form where the space agencies share what they are going to do as we move forward in space. And we learn from one another. And then in 2018, the group published the third iteration of the exploration roadmap to foster cooperation and partnership opportunities as we move forward and explore. And we are very pleased that the Polish Space Agency is one of the partners in the ISIG. So when we get to the moon, we're going in a sustainable way. We want to use the resources on the moon, but we have to explore, and we want to get all over the moon. So on the left, you see a picture of the Lunar rover that was used on the Apollo 15, 16, and 17 missions. But on the right, we're going to build a new lunar terrain vehicle. And this rover is going to be able to carry astronauts a distance of 20 kilometers per charge, and it's going to last for 10 years. But we want to go even further than that. So we are also building a pressurized rover. And you can see a mock-up out in the desert of what one concept is that we've been testing with astronauts. But on the right, you see what we want to build. And this will carry 2 astronauts in a pressurized compartment where they can actually live on the moon for 30 days. It's designed to last 15 years, and it will be able to travel 40 to 60 kilometers on a charge. So commercial lunar payloads. This is a partnership with American companies to deliver payloads to the lunar surface for science, exploration, and commercial development of the moon. And what you see on the left, that is the drill for the Viper spacecraft that's going to go to the south pole of the moon. And on the right, you see the Viper rover. This is looking for water on the moon. And we know at the south pole of the moon, there's tons of water ice. And water is hydrogen for fuel. It's oxygen to breathe, oxidizer to burn the fuel. So again, if we're going to go to the moon, we don't want to have to carry all our fuel and everything there. We want to utilize the resources on the moon, in situ resource utilization, for these extended stays as we move forward. So Viper's going to evaluate and find water on the moon. And these other CLIPS missions, they're going to start in 2022, and then 3 and 4. And these are all commercial companies that are going to different areas on the moon with different payloads to learn and explore as part of our Artemis program. And here you can see just pictures of what these different payloads are that these companies are putting together for the science. Rovers. You know, you guys are learning about rovers. I think it's outstanding. I love the competition. It's something that's really neat. I love going to FIRST robotics competitions here in the United States and seeing all the different concepts that you guys come up with to meet the challenges that are assigned to you. This to me was amazing. This was pictures from the Perseverance rover, Mars 2020. This was launched from the Kennedy Space Center in July of 2020, and February of this year, it landed on Mars successfully, and it's been absolutely amazing. And rovers, again, they're the precursor to sending humans, these robotics. So the ultimate goal is to go from the moon to Mars, getting a human presence beyond our home planet in our solar system. And we're going to the moon to learn all that we need to know in order to be successful when we go to Mars, as well as, you know, just the exploration of the moon that's going to help us learn more about our home planet and how to better protect it also. But the goal is Mars. You can see Perseverance, Mars 2020 on Mars, and to the left in the picture, you can see the Ingenuity helicopter, and that is so cool. This is the first time that we've flown a vehicle on another planet, and it has gone out and searched out things for the rover to go see. The other thing that Perseverance has done. It recently took its first successful sample. So it's going to various sites on Mars, collecting different samples. And we're looking to see if there was life one time on Mars and learn more about Mars. So these samples are being collected, and then eventually, again, in partnership with our European partners, we are going to be returning these samples on the Mars Science Return Mission to Earth. So this is kind of a cool picture, and it just shows the evolution of the rovers on Mars from the beginning, from very small to the Mars sample return. You can see it having collected the samples, launching to rendezvous with a spacecraft to bring them back to Earth. And all of this is in preparation for bringing humans to Mars one day. All right, with that, I'd like to pull this to a close, because what I really want to do is be able to take your questions. Human on Mars, that's the goal. And if you want to learn more about any of this, nasa.gov/Artemis for more information. And there's a wealth of information out there. But if we could stop the presentation, I'd like to pull up pictures of my audience and be able to take your questions now.
It's a lifetime of wonderful achievement, Robert. Congratulations and thank you for joining us today. And we decided to surprise you with the very first question coming from the youngest member of the team, an 11-year-old boy who has already built his first rover in his life. That's quite an achievement, you will agree, I'm sure.
Excellent.
Hello, Mr. Cabana. I'm Simon. And I am a student of Children's University of Technology in Kielce. Because of Starship will be used in the Artemis program, what do you think about the lack of the escape system in Starship?
So first off, the Starship that's being built, you know, right now, SpaceX is using that to be the lander, human landing system. That is, they've won a contract to build that to demonstrate a landing on the moon with that. But it will not have humans on it when it launches for the NASA mission. It will be in orbit around the moon, and then the Orion capsule will fly to the moon and dock with the lander and land on the moon and come back to Orion to fly back to Earth. So obviously, before SpaceX can fly humans from Earth on the Starship, they're going to have to demonstrate reliability to prove that they have a safe vehicle to fly on. So that's a ways down the road right now. But from a NASA point of view, we are going to ensure that when it is certified to fly as a lander on the moon, and we rendezvous with it, that it's as safe as we can make it. It will have already demonstrated that it can accomplish its mission without a crew, an uncrewed demonstration of landing on the moon, and then a crewed landing. So a lot of work yet to do on that, a long ways to go.
And let's all hope that the mission abort, in any sense of the word, will not be needed. We've got a lot more questions coming from the room, Robert, so let me give it a try.
Thank you for this opportunity. I have a question. Well, you mentioned that there is a lot of international collaboration regarding Artemis program. So the question is there any plan for Europeans to visit the moon as well, together with American astronauts?
Absolutely. So as we go in this cooperative effort, this International Space Station has been a tremendous model for how we operate together in space. You know, we have the United States, Canada, Japan, the European Space Agency, and all its partners in Russia working together as one up there on the International Space Station. We've had our international astronauts be commanders of the International Space Station. So as they contribute to the International Space Station, they will also contribute to the Gateway, and they will also have their astronauts flying on the Orion spacecraft to the moon and going down to the lunar surface and being part of the exploration of the moon. So absolutely, our European partners, our partners Canada and Japan, are a part of what we are doing. And I think the International Space Station is a tremendous model for how we explore beyond our home planet. You know, in spite of all our political differences here on Earth, we're working together as one up there on the International Space Station. So absolutely.
Well, any idea if it will be like a first surface mission or some mission along the way?
It's too early for me to say. We're still working on all that. That's some years down the road, so I wouldn't be able to say exactly who and when.
So, Robert, my question involves ISRU. We know that in the short term, the lunar ISRU mostly revolves around getting water from the lunar ice and not even extracting oxygen or hydrogen from the regolith. But in the longer run, it actually revolves around the similar idea of OSAM, the on-orbit servicing, assembly and manufacturing. So those space mining, as we call them, technologies would actually, I don't know, how do you think? Would they tie in with the principle of the Artemis Accords, not the space resources principle, but the principle of remediating and mitigating the threat of space debris? For example, would it be easier to use the similar smelting techniques to break up space debris, space junk and wreckage that we would use on rocks, and not, for example, trying to burn upon re-entry some lunar space junk, as we know that the moon doesn't have such an atmosphere to burn up on re-entry, and sending it back to Earth to burn up on re-entry would be something that even Robert Heinlein wouldn't pull out. What do you think?
So that's an absolutely excellent question, and I will be honest, I would need to consult with some of my experts in that field and get their thoughts on it. I wouldn't want to comment and say something that wouldn't be technically 100% accurate. I can tell you, in-situ resource utilization as we go back to the moon, I mean, taking care of trash is a huge problem. But we are doing more than just gathering water for hydrogen and oxygen. We're looking at additive manufacturing on the moon, actually using lunar regolith to build shelters on the moon. So we have so much more that we need to learn. And that's part of the reason for the CLIPS program. As we go to the moon and we work with our commercial partners to gather this knowledge, we will be able to lay out a better plan as we move forward, doing this in a sustainable way.
When are we going to have the "it's a one small step for man" moment on Mars? Give us the year and the month. You don't have to give us the day.
Oh, I think, you know, hopefully by the late 2030s, early 2040s, we will be on the Martian surface. Nothing ever seems to happen as quick as we would like. It's a huge challenge. A Martian mission right now, you know, with our current propulsion technology, you're talking 6 to 9 months to get to Mars, another 6 to 9 months on Mars for the planets to align, for another 6 to 9 month trip home. And studies I've seen say that before we can send humans, we have to actually pre-stage like 18 metric tons of supplies and equipment in order to keep them alive for that period of time and be successful. Look at when we landed the Curiosity and Perseverance rovers, that was like 1 metric ton. And that was a huge challenge to do that. So we still have an awful lot to learn and systems to develop if we are going to be successful when we go on to Mars. And I think there's 2 really big drawbacks. Of course, one is the time it takes to get there. New propulsion technology would be absolutely outstanding. And we're looking at nuclear thermal, as well as nuclear electric, in order to provide new propulsion other than just pure chemical propulsion. And protecting astronauts for these long trips to Mars, the radiation environment that they have to be in is also another factor that we have to consider. So a lot left to learn before we can actually get on to Mars. And hopefully we'll learn a lot of that, developing the systems, the reliable systems that we need as we go to the moon, and how we operate away from our home planet for an extended period of time. And it's a lot better when you have problems to be 2 or 3 days from home on the moon than when we go to Mars. So we still have a lot of work to do. But I would, if I had to give my best guess, I'd say in the early 2040s we will be have humans on Mars. But it could happen sooner.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity. I'm Paula from Lunar's research station. And how do you find balance between the innovation of new space companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin while maintaining the safety standards NASA is known for?
Whoa, thank you, Paula. So first off, people talk about space. They talk about new space, commercial space, government space. And the truth of the matter is there's only one space above us, all right? And if we are going to be successful, we need commercial and government integrated together. And we need all our partners working toward solving our problems. Innovation, competition drives innovation, and we constantly see these new startup companies being more and more innovative, doing things in a more cost-effective and efficient manner. So, we balance as best we can in how we award our contracts, making sure that they meet our needs in order to be successful as we move forward. So it's a constant, iteration as we move forward, trying to select the best that we can for what we need to do at the most cost-effective and efficient way. But I fully support this government commercial cooperative effort that we have as we move forward.
Hello, Mr. Cabana. My name is Lucas. I'm the European Rover Challenge founder and organizer. And I have very easy and hard question for you at the same time, because I'm being asked for the last couple of days why we need to go to Mars, because we have a lot of problems on Earth, a lot of things that we have to solve here first. And what are we escaping the planet, having plan B? So actually, this is a very important question, why we need a space sector at all. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, first off, every dollar that has been spent on the space program has not been spent in space. It's been spent right here on Earth, making life on Earth better. The technology that comes from our exploration constantly improves our life on Earth and helps us solve problems here on Earth. So this technology is critical to our future. When I got selected to be an astronaut, I worked for Captain John Young. He was chief of the astronaut office, and John was one of my heroes. He flew the first Gemini mission with Gus Grissom, twice on Gemini, twice on Apollo, walked on the moon, flew the first shuttle mission, and then flew the first Space Lab mission with the shuttle. And John used to say, single planet species will not survive. At some point in our future, there's going to be an event like the one that took out the dinosaurs. And if we are not prepared to live off our planet and be ready for that, we as a species will not survive. Well, that sounds kind of grim, but I do believe that we need to establish a presence in our solar system beyond our home planet. It's our destiny to explore, to continue to learn. And as good as robots and rovers are for exploration, they still can't match what we can learn when we send humans. So I truly believe we need to learn to live off the planet Earth. I don't know how many of you guys have watched, I'm kind of a science fiction fan also, and there's a series called The Expanse, and it shows, it's off in the future, and it shows people living on Earth, living on the moon, living on Mars, living in the asteroid belt and mining it. And to me, that's the future. And we're going to continue to learn, to expand, and make that happen.
Hello, Robert. It's me again, Kamil, the guy from the ISRU question. I would first like to add to the thing you said about the whataboutism when we post, for example, environmentalism against space. Every time somebody tells me that we should focus on the climate and not on the space ventures, I say, okay, fine, but please don't use satellite data when you're discussing or bashing climate denialists. But my question about the rovers is one thing. You said that we would need to put several metric tons of supplies to have people on Mars. Similarly, we would have to build shelters for them, and this is near impossible with today's signal lag between Earth and Mars. So what would you say, for example, for putting a computer core with, not say an AI, but several programs that would actually operate a handful of rovers as a swarm intelligence on site without the computer lag, similarly that we have IoT and cobots?
Wow, that's a very interesting concept. I would be interested in learning more about that. And again, I would get my my really good scientists and engineers together and evaluate it and come forward with a plan to see if that's feasible. You know, anything. That's the amazing thing. Look at how technology has changed. Unfortunately, as we plan these missions, you know, we're planning a mission right now for the Mars sample return, right? In 2021. And it's probably not going to bring that sample back until 2031, 2033, you know, 10 years from now. But think about how technology is going to change in the next 10 years and what's going to be available. So I think we got to continue to grow the technologies and to learn, and then figure out how we can apply them as we get on some of these challenging conditions. I would also say, you know, going back to what you said about climate change, you know, I think what we do, obviously, taking care of planet Earth is, you know, a #1 priority for all of us. I've had the privilege of looking down on the Earth from a couple hundred nautical miles high, and it's amazing. I mean, you see the curvature of the Earth about like that, with this thin little hazy line over it. That's our atmosphere. That's all that's protecting us from that harsh void of space with its ultraviolet radiation and extreme temperatures. And space is the darkest black that you can possibly imagine. But our home planet, Earth, it's just this beautiful blue jewel of a planet. And there's no place close by that matches it, that's as nice that we can live on. So we definitely have to take care of it. And the NASA science missions, that the satellites that are monitoring our Earth, that are measuring the climate changes, that are measuring, you know, the atmosphere, that are looking at the oceans, you know, they are critical to our understanding of what's going on and how our planet is changing. And so it's very important that we focus on our home planet as well, and space helps us do that.
Robert, you've been on 4 space shuttle missions, if I'm not mistaken. You've also held some of the most important management roles in the space exploration industry over the years. My quick question to you is, can you think of one moment where you found human creativity absolutely mesmerizing in finding a solution to a challenging problem? When I think about it, and when we think about the rover landing on Mars and turning it into a bouncing ball until it eventually lands. So I'm thinking about something like that. In your career, in your experience, do you remember facing a problem that looked completely insoluble at first, but then someone found an out-of-the-box solution which was mesmerizing?
Wow, that you're making me think hard. First off, I believe in the human spirit and our ability to conquer and solve any problem, and we are amazing. What we can do if we focus and work together as a team it's awesome. And that's why diversity and inclusion are so important. You know, it's that diversity of thought. It's bringing a team together from different backgrounds, diverse backgrounds, that can, you know, everybody brings something different to the table. And to get the best solution to a problem, when you have all these different minds and different backgrounds working together, you are going to get the best solution. I believe we can solve any problem if we work together in an inclusive environment to make that happen. You know, there are so many technical advances, and it boggles the mind, and it's changing so quickly. It's hard to keep up with it. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us to continue to learn and grow. Even when we get old like me, you know, you got to continue to keep learning and moving forward and staying up with technology. I think what impressed me more, if I look back on my career, it's not the technical things that have impressed me or the solutions to the problems. It's what I've been able to see from different perspectives, you know, as an astronaut, as a pilot, and the beauty of space, the beauty of planet Earth. You know, when I look at, I guess if I could pick one scientific achievement so far that has been absolutely amazing, it's the Hubble Space Telescope. One of my favorite pictures, it's called the Hubble Deep Field. And everybody knows what the Big Dipper looks like, Ursa Major. And if you take the cup of the Big Dipper and you put your finger up in the night sky underneath the handle, between the cup and the handle, and look at your little fingernail, all right? And Hubble took a picture. There's nothing there. It's black. No stars, nothing. And Hubble took a picture of an area the size of your little fingernail, holding it up like that. And what it found were not only hundreds of stars, but hundreds of galaxies, all right? Think about how vast our universe is and what we have learned from the Hubble Space Telescope. And we're getting ready to launch another telescope now. It's the James Webb Space Telescope. It's going to be launched on an Ariane 5 rocket from French Guiana down in Kourou, the middle of December 17th, 18th timeframe. And James Webb is this amazing observatory that's going to be out in L2. And it is going to see back 13.5 billion years in time, 350 million years from the Big Bang. That's how far it's going to be able to see back in time. And this is going to be absolutely amazing what we are going to learn. And I look at what has come from Kepler and our other planet observatories. We have found not one or two, but hundreds of planets that are in the Goldilocks zone, not too close or too far away from a star that could have an Earth-like environment. So I just think it's so important that we continue to learn and gather knowledge. And so I'll throw up Hubble as something that has truly advanced the knowledge of our universe.
Robert, if one of your goals was to redefine the words mind-boggling or unimaginable in a short statement like that, I believe you did it. We've got more questions from the audience.
Robert, what do you think about idea of cooperation, United States and China, in case of exploration and exploitation move, and in case of exploration and exploitation to Mars? Do you think it will be mutually beneficial on, or only partly, one-sidedly beneficial, only for China or only for United States? Thank you.
So right now, by law, we are prohibited from partnering with China in our space exploration efforts. But we still share knowledge about our home planet on various science missions and stuff. So I'm going to decline to offer a personal opinion on that, and I'll just stick with our current government position, which is we are not partnering right now with China. Could that change in the future? That's always possible.
Hello, Robert. I have a question about ISS. What about our space laboratory? Is it a finale, or should we look forward for some other cooperation between different nations? Are you going only for the moon and Gateway, or what are you up to?
Okay, so our goal is to commercialize low Earth orbit, to create a commercial economy in low Earth orbit, and where we can be one of many customers as opposed to owning and operating the entire laboratory that's up there. And then we can focus on that hard job of exploring beyond our home planet. So the International Space Station, it is going to come to the end of its life. And right now we're looking at the 2030 timeframe. So we are trying to establish a commercial destination. And we're working with a company, Axion, to have a commercial module on the space station. And eventually they're going to have their own commercial space station. Sierra Nevada is another company that is looking to have a commercial destination in orbit. Right now, in establishing this commercial economy, we have SpaceX, Northrop Grumman, and Sierra Nevada that are on contract to fly cargo to the International Space Station. They provide that service. We have SpaceX and Boeing flying crews to the International Space Station. Boeing still has to fly a successful uncrewed and crewed test flight before they carry crew. But right now, the International Space Station is the only destination. So we also want to have a destination for these companies to continue to fly commercially to space. And that would be a commercial space station once the International Space Station reaches the end of its useful life.
Hi, Robert. My name is Remco Timmermans. This year we're celebrating 60 years of human spaceflight, and obviously you were a big part of that. But now we see lots of people here, especially young children, who are looking to the next 60 years of human spaceflight. What can you give them as a message of their opportunities in space in the next 60 years?
I believe the opportunities are unlimited. You know, I think it's really interesting. So if you look, anybody that is 21 years old or younger in the world has never known a time that there were not humans living and working in space. Since November of 2000, we have had a permanent crew on the International Space Station. And that's our future, all right? We are going to continue to live and explore and go beyond. Technology continues to change and get better and better. Costs, we always are coming up with ways to be more cost effective and efficient, more affordable. I believe that anybody that has an interest in being part of the space program, of exploring in space, that there is going to be opportunity for them if they apply themselves, work hard in school, have a technical degree, have the skills that are necessary to come forward. And again, I go back to having that passion. You know, I never dreamed I could be an astronaut when I was a young boy. I held those astronauts in such high esteem. They were so much, I thought they were so much better or smarter than I was. I just wanted to fly airplanes, and I was fortunate to get to go to the United States Naval Academy. I took a commission in the Marine Corps. I became a pilot in the Marine Corps, and then I wanted to be a test pilot and use all the math and engineering I had in school along with flying. I got to become a test pilot, and that's what qualified me to be an astronaut. It was always something that one thing kind of led to another. And so I encourage all students, all young people, to have a goal. And don't give up when they don't get it on the first try, but make sure that you're doing something that you're passionate about, that you really believe in, and it's going to make life so much better and so much easier, and it'll really be fun.
Hey, Paul from Lunar's research station. So with the barrier of entry being so high with technology to get into orbit and interplanetary travel, how can we ensure equal international playing field as we move forward over the next couple of decades? Thank you.
So I think that, you know, we are doing very well in the United States, bringing our international partners in, and more nations have signed the Artemis Accords. I think we want to look towards international partnership as we explore. I believe, as I said, the space station's an excellent model. I think that when we leave planet Earth and go beyond and establish this present, we need to do it in an international and cooperative manner. A trick question for you is, who was the first person to enter the International Space Station? And the answer is there was no first person. When it came time to enter the hatch on that first space station assembly mission, I pulled my crewmate, Sergei Krikalev, a Russian cosmonaut, up alongside me. And if you look at the pictures, Sergei and I entered all the hatches side by side. I felt that as an international space station, we needed to enter as an international crew. So I had the honor of being the first American, and he was the first Russian to enter the space station, but there was no first person. And I think as we move forward, you know, that's what we need to do, continue to work in that cooperative manner. Hey, I just want to say how much I really enjoyed talking to you all. I sincerely wish I could have been there in person. I wish you all the very best in whatever you choose to pursue in your lives. I ask that you work hard and do well at whatever you do. And we are part of the Artemis generation, right? We are going back to the moon in a sustainable way, and we're going exploring beyond our home planet. And I think that's an absolutely exciting future for all of us.
Robert, I'm not sure if anyone has told you that, but we are actually planning to organize future editions of ERC. So if that's the wish you want to see fulfilled in the future, you're very much open to it. One last question, call it inspirational or call it out of curiosity. Long before you started watching The Expanse, do you remember your very first thoughts and emotions on your very first mission to space? And could you compare them to your very last mission to space, both looking at the planet and the thoughts you had?
Absolutely. my first ride into space, I just wanted to make sure I didn't make any mistakes. I was really focused on my job, and I'll never forget that ride on that rocket ship going up. It is just a sense of speed and acceleration. You're being pushed back in your seat, and it's hard to breathe, and it just gets up and goes. And when the engines shut off, about 7.5 minutes, about a minute before the engines shut off, you're being pushed back in your seat at a 3G acceleration. It's hard to breathe. And when the engines shut off, you come forward in your seat. It feels like you stopped, but you just stopped accelerating. You're going 17,005 miles an hour and 5.5 miles a second. And I looked out the window, and at that point, you're about 65 nautical miles above the Earth, and you continue to coast out to your apogee, the high point of your orbit. But seeing the curvature of the Earth was just amazing. And on that first flight, anytime I had any spare time at all, I just stuck my nose up to the window and made a memory. And I just remember this beautiful Earth, how privileged we are, to be able to live on it. My last flight, it was more of the same. And I didn't know for sure it was my last flight, but I kind of figured it was. But I think I never got tired of looking at the Earth anytime I had any spare time at all. It's absolutely beautiful. And that I spent a lot of time doing that. But what I will always remember is how well that mission went from start to finish, and to be able to lay the cornerstone for the International Space Station, this huge international cooperative effort that has been so phenomenally successful on orbit. I had great pride in my crew and what we had accomplished, and I will never forget that sense of accomplishment and that pride in my team, the entire team, and what we were able to do. So I'm still part of what I think is the most amazing team anywhere, NASA. I'm extremely proud and privileged to be a part of it, and I look forward to continued success of our space program. Thank you.
I never got tired of looking at the Earth. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember this sentence and do remember it forever. Robert, thank you for being so wonderfully generous with us. Robert Cabana, Associate Director, NASA. Once again, thank you, Robert. All the best. Stay healthy.